Watch this from Todd White.
He came and gave me this blank canvas. He came and gave me this pure heart, and I've never violated it with anything.
You can actually have the word so strong inside of your heart that you never have to slip. People are like, well, that's false. That's not true. Well, you're wrong. I live with me.
So for 13 years, I've been free from that. I've never looked with lust at a woman, ever.
I live with me. My kids will tell you that I'm a man of God. I'm a father.
Because God doesn't say He wants you 97% pure. I mean, was Jesus 97% pure?
I'm not holier than thou. I just love Jesus 24/7.
If he does say so himself. It has been said that spiritual growth is a growth downward. It is only when we have a lower view of ourselves that we will have a higher view of God. And that is a man right there who has a very inflated view of himself, and therefore a very low view of God. I want us now to look at some of the leaders of the early Pentecostal charismatic movement. These are the movers and shakers. These are the men and women that charismatics today refer to as God's generals. These are men and women that are absolutely revered amongst charismatics today, and we will see as we go along that they are all heretics, frauds, and charlatans. John Alexander Dowie, where does he do his shopping? You see the dates of his birth. He was born in Scotland, moved to Australia. He developed an interest in faith healing in the 1880s and then moved to the United States in 1888. He formed the International Divine Healing Association in San Francisco. He prayed for the healing only of paid members of his cult. It was quite literally a pay-to-pray situation. So if you did not give him your money, no prayers for you. He was sued by 2 women for fraud. He later formed the Zion Tabernacle in Chicago and then founded the City of Zion, which banned all practice of medicine. He spoke against doctors strongly, telling people to rely upon their faith. So, in other words, if you get sick, don't go see a doctor. Because if you're sick and you go see a doctor, then what you're really saying is that I don't really believe that God is going to heal me, and that is the fastest way to lose your miracle of healing. And that is a common theme in the charismatic movement to this very day. They teach that it is always God's will to be healed, and you'll be healed as long as you have enough faith. Well, what better way to betray in yourself a lack of faith than to do what? To go see a doctor. Because if you go see a doctor and if you take your medicine, then what you're saying is I don't really believe God's going to heal me. And according to charismatic theology, that's the fastest way for you to lose your miracle of healing. He had healing rooms. Had rooms that were dedicated to healing people. Bethel Church has healing rooms. That's where they began with John Alexander Dowie. He lived in opulent luxury while his followers lived in poverty because he required them to give to him most of their money. Many, many people died under his quote-unquote care, including a large number of children. Because, again, if you're sick, don't go see a doctor, don't take your medicine because you're saying that you don't believe that God will really heal you. And so a lot of his followers got sick, like people do, and they died because he forbade them from going to see doctors, including children. There was a woman, one of his followers, a lady named Anita Flanders, and she got sick and she was dying. He even denied Anita Flanders a bowl of broth as she died. Denied that to her. He was a wicked, wicked man. Of course, when she died, he blamed it on her. It was her lack of faith, the reason she died. He was an absolute wicked man. And he was the forerunner of the American Pentecostal movement. He was the earliest forerunner of the Pentecostal movement. And John Alexander Dowie, this is one of his quotes. He said this, he said, "Don't be stingy with your money. If you do, the Lord may be stingy with his cures. No better today, sir? Dowie would thunder at a debilitated cancer subject or a person with epilepsy. Well, sir, if you are not better, it is your own fault. You either don't trust in the Lord or you are concealing some infamous crime. So if you're sick, it's your fault. It's your lack of faith. It's your unconfessed sin. It's your fault. And John Alexander Dowie also claimed to be Elijah. He claimed to be a reincarnation of the Old Testament prophet Elijah. Frank Sanford. Frank Sanford was another scoundrel. He was a native of Maine, went to a missions trip, and then upon his return, he performed an exorcism on one of his friends, and then went for a walk in the woods. And while he was walking in the woods, he claimed to hear an audible voice from heaven say, Armageddon. If you're walking in the woods and you hear voices out of the sky saying Armageddon, probably nothing good's coming after that. But he opened a religious compound named Shiloh, also referred to as the Kingdom or the Legion of God. The Legion of God, that's an interesting name given that, Mark chapter 5, Jesus asked the demoniac, what is your name? My name is Legion, for we are many. Kind of a telling name there for his little cult. He had up to 1,000 followers at the pinnacle of his popularity. He forced, just like John Alexander Dowie, he forced his followers to give him all of their possessions, and they were not allowed to leave this compound. It was really almost like a cultic prison. He forced extended fasts upon his followers, including upon children. If you were sick, that was a sign that your soul was sick, and even children who got sick were forced to fast until they got right with God. And if these sick children did not get right with God, if they continued to get sick, then they were beaten. In fact, one girl he beat for the sin of vanity. He had a little girl, I think she was about 12 years old, and he accused her of the sin of vanity, and so he beat her. Do you know how he knew that this young girl was guilty of the sin of vanity? Because he caught her looking into a mirror. Obviously, she was just full of vanity. Lots of people died following him, including at least one child, in all likelihood more than that. 6 Shiloh churches, believe it or not, are still in existence today, known as Kingdom Christian Ministries. And, like John Alexander Dowie, Frank Sanford also claimed to be Elijah.